Okay, hello and welcome to episode 17. My name is Ross,
And I'm Greg.
and it's time to put the kettle on because it's tea time. Right.
Mm.
I do believe, Craig, it is your turn to start with the news.
Yes, it is. And I have a few pieces. First of all, a little one for you, since you're a Nissan Leaf driver.
For me?
Yes, specifically for you and the thousands of other people like you, I suppose. What happens to your batteries once they sort of degrade and are no longer car quality?
We deliberately drive the car into a tree and claim an insurance. No, that was a joke. I don't know, actually. I don't know. I guess you could try and get replaced, but I imagine that would cost about half the price of the car itself.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thinking right now, that the batteries outlive the car in usefulness, just in other things. And there's a company who started using them in other things, and they've started making electric ferries using Nissan Leaf batteries, because they obviously require significantly less power to do the same type of thing, and they are a really good way to recycle those batteries.
Yeah, they're also, I think they're also used for on-house storage, like the Tesla Powerwall. Basically, anything which is just it has less of a need to charge the next what's the word? You know what I mean? To use the energy and then extract again. Anything that doesn't do that as often, it's fine for.
Yeah, exactly. Low performance, longer use, less requirement of rapid charging. So
rapid charging.
Ferries, good avenue. And it is actually the UK's first electric ferry being launched with old Nissan Leaf batteries.
Hey!
So it's nice to know when you move on to your brand spanking new Tesla in the future, your Leaf could live in a ferry.
Can die at sea. I mean, yes.
Yeah, they can maybe finally get rid of that chain that connects pool and sandbags, and it'd be powered by an old Nissan Leaf.
They'll just use the Nissan Leaf battery to turn the chain. That's what they'll do. I'll just keep everything else the same.
Maybe. So before, a couple of weeks back, we did a round of applause, thank you thing. I have no idea if that worked. However, there's another round of applause I'd like to shout out for Japan.
No, wait. I'm not going to give them a round of applause until I know what they've done.
Basically, they've upped their climate ambitions, and they've started meeting the UK and the EU's high standards to meet the Paris Climate Agreement. So Japan have gone all in to say, we will meet the Paris Climate Agreement and more, because our ambitions have also been increased. And basically, they kind of copied the UK. So I'm not sure if that's part of the trade deal or if that's been discussed in any way to do with that.
With them, didn't we? So maybe.
We did a massive trade deal with them, yeah. So they are reducing their emissions by 80% by 2050. The target is only 50% by then. So, I mean, they're doing quite a good, ambitious target, kind of meeting what the UK already suggests we should do. Another piece of tiny little news is the UK just installed its 20,000th EV charging point.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I'm not really sure. That doesn't really compare, obviously, to the EU and the US. But for the UK, quite a big milestone. We're finally doing things and getting on that track.
Yeah. I still think there's only like 3 in Dorset, but
yeah.
But still.
I mean, we're going to need these on like ferry banks soon, so better get on them.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, did you hear NASA's big news?
NASA? Yes, I did.
You did, cool. I mean, they kind of left it really. I don't know. They did this whole weird thing where we're going to announce something big tomorrow about the moon.
Yeah, no,
and then left everyone hanging.
Friday. They said, but we can't tell you till Monday. What was that about?
They just left everybody hanging. So we're thinking, oof, aliens. It must be aliens. Dark side of the moon. They found an alien base.
Yeah, but why did they have to wait until Monday? What was that about?
I don't know. Like, were they not sure to tell us or something?
What reason could there be?
But then the announcement was that we've found water on the moon. 100% verifiably found water on the moon, which makes moon colonization incredibly possible. And even so, we are going to go ahead and start doing that. So we're going back to the moon.
Hey, I think.
Exciting announcement, really cool. I mean, the entire point of the moon is it's going to be just a port in order to get deep space travel. So what Elon's doing with reusable rockets, ideally that would happen on the moon. And that would just be significantly easier to go to Mars and back via the moon.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. And the fact we have water there means we can also live there. I mean, there was no discussion about life, because where there's water, there's life in certain cases.
But the moon doesn't, is it right? The moon doesn't rotate?
It doesn't. That's why it has a dark side.
Yeah. So, so that's why there's also part of the where they think the ice is in these dark little spots, even on the side that we can see, that because it doesn't spin in the same way, it just doesn't get any light ever. So it's just like a frozen dark hole. Yeah.
So it doesn't rotate, basically. It doesn't have an iron core. It doesn't have an atmosphere. It doesn't have anything to do with it that does anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that's why it's a moon and not a planet.
Yes, I guess so. But yes, I guess it's a lot, because of the gravity, lower levels. I guess it's a lot easier to take off from there. So I don't know whether it's got water. Wouldn't necessarily mean they have methane, though, would it?
Not necessarily. No.
Which is what they need. And so from last week's topic, we know that they need methane on Mars in order to make that into a sensible place to take off from. So they would need the same on the moon, you'd think. But whatever.
I mean, yeah, you'd think so, but I don't know. I mean, as a port, the idea is right now the majority of the thrust and the rocket fuel required is to get out of the Earth's atmosphere.
Yes.
So once you've done that, maybe with a space elevator, I think that was the grand ambitions before. But maybe Elon Musk's idea of reusable rockets is cheaper and more long-term. Once we get to the moon, we just store that stuff there, produce it there perhaps, if possible, and then take it to Mars quite happily.
Yeah.
And that takes 1 million miles or so off the clock getting to Mars. I'm not sure that is in time. A month, maybe, weeks.
Don't know.
Not sure. If you're from NASA, please add a comment on the exact times. Other than that, we have a study which has come out to say why the lockdown that we're currently in, has barely affected the global temperatures.
So, really?
Remember a few weeks back where we discussed how the Earth Day clock has been moved back a few weeks?
Yes.
And I say, it's basically brought us back to where we were in 2005, I believe.
I can't remember the dates, but yeah, it was. No, I don't think it was that far back. But anyway, it was a little bit. It was a little bit back. Yes.
It's about 3 weeks, I think. And before we were kind of like reaching one Earth resource usage at the end of August. We kind of pushed it back to about mid-August, maybe beginning of August, which is pretty good. Even though that is still true, we have barely affected global temperatures, even though at its peak, 1/3 of the entire world was in lockdown. Flights, car travel, they all plummeted by up to 75%. Most industrial activity fell too by about 30-40%. Mm-hmm. But what they're saying is, even though that thing is good for temperature, what's also happened, and now we understand the benefits of, are airborne aerosols. So during industry, aerosols are produced, which kind of hang around in the atmosphere, and they reflect back the sun. So they, in a sense, help cool the Earth down. Yes. So when we stop producing aerosols, which happens through just normal industry,
Yeah.
The Earth warmed up, opposite to the fact that we've also stopped doing all the warming stuff.
Yeah.
So in turn, we actually produced a short-term warming effect, which kind of negated the benefits. So while the study, it balanced out quite awkwardly in a sense. What's kind of suggestion is if we want to make this work, we just need to be in lockdown longer, years, to then really negate the differences in what we're seeing. My final piece of news is a cool little thing from Amazon. They have launched an eco-friendly shopping platform in the UK.
Oh. So
the way they've designed this is basically, so they already have like a monthly shopping sort of thing where they can, I can't remember what it's called, but they basically pop things in certain boxes for you and bring them to your house once a month. I'm not sure if you ever use this. It's for Prime customers. I use it myself for like nappies, wet wipes, that type of stuff. The stuff that you'd have to use pretty much all the time. Yeah. And you get discounts on the more you buy and the more you fill a box. The more sustainable it is, the more discounts you get.
Right.
So what they're launching now is a sort of separate arm to that, only for sustainable products. So we're thinking, plastic-free shampoo, organic children's clothing, and then a bunch of other items, 40,000 items at first. And the idea is that it'll benefit like fair trade schemes, carbon trusts, and the ideas are they're all picked on the environmental merits.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense. It's basically making it cheaper for you to buy the better products. That makes sense. It's not particularly great for the local shop supplier, because you for convenience levels, you'll still rather have that than walk to a shop, which would have been better.
Yeah,
that's capitalism, folks.
It is. So what's those guys who do the deal with Tesco's? Loop? Yeah, so I suppose it's kind of taking on them in a sense, except
but it kind of already sounds better, to be honest. Well, I mean, it depends on what products they have, because that was part of the issue that I had with Loop, is that most of the products I have no interest in buying anyway. So,
I mean, they're launching with 40,000 items, so I have no idea what they are, but I imagine there's quite a lot of big brands in there. But yeah,
that was part of my issue was the brands. I don't really buy brand stuff, but
no, neither do I. I mean, they haven't specifically said any brands. All they're saying are environmental merited products that benefit such schemes such as fair trade, carbon trust, etc. But I mean, even things like organic children's clothing, that sounds quite cool. I've never considered that before, to be honest, because obviously kids go through clothes quite quickly. Them being organic, and what we discussed in the past climate agreement chat we had was that clothing, fabric, is the second biggest consumer of CO2 in the entire planet.
Yeah.
And yeah, most of it is just for fashion that we rotate and bin every 3 months, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think we talked about some service where you can basically send the clothes back or something. I mean, from my son, that would be, if there is a service, I should probably do that, because that would be, life so much easier. Just know that you've always got clothes that will fit him. I don't worry about fashion too much. He doesn't care. He'll put he spends most of the time wearing capes and masks and things, and running around like he's a superhero. So he doesn't care what colour his shorts are.
Exactly, he's a kid, and we shouldn't even introduce him to the idea of fashion. I mean, hopefully that crap dies with our generation.
Hopefully.
Anyway, what news you got this week?
Well, let me tell you there, Craig. I've got this some stuff prepared for you. First of all, let's start with General Electric, American company, but bear with me. Haliade, their Haliade X, which of course you know what that is their turbine, wind turbine, has just got better. and it's hit new records for how much energy it can generate in one day. And I wanted to bring this up because a few weeks ago I did a thing on offshore wind, and I tore apart some loose arguments. I'm being very polite today. Loose arguments as to why wind turbines were a horrific idea. So we took some of those apart, and well, basically, this is a perfect example of why this it goes against that argument, because basically what that argument did not count for was any form of innovation whatsoever. So in this case, we've got exactly the same architecture, exactly the same everything in how it all works, but they've just managed to make the blade spin quicker, more efficiently, whatever, and all of a sudden, you know, that's a I'm not sure I have the percentage increase, but it's, you know, it's a little bit better, and they'll do that, and they'll keep doing that. So yay for wind on that one. Just a little thing for that. Also, hydrogen is flying high at the moment. And I mean literally, of course. Apparently, Airbus reckon they will have hydrogen planes by 2030.
So these are not Zeppelins, but actual planes.
Actual planes running on hydrogen.
Like liquid hydrogen?
I don't know.
I'm only thinking that normally they store the fuel in the wings, and it doesn't feel like a lot of space to store gas.
Check this baby out.
Oh wow! Look at that. That looks like what's they called? The B-71, the stealth bomber.
Yeah. Now, Anzo, we should clarify. It does say quite clearly underneath that an artist's impression. I don't know, but the point of bringing it up really is just really we keep talking about it. It keeps coming up. We're not seeing much in real life about it, but hydrogen keeps coming up as this fuel source, magical fuel source that everyone's making, but, you know, hasn't been actually anything that anyone can go on yet.
Yeah. I mean, and even when we discussed hydrogen before, we should really do an episode on hydrogen, I think.
We probably should, because it's taking over. It's
just the fact that the hydrogen...
over.
Yeah, the fact that hydrogen fuel cell was invented, 150 years ago by some Welsh guy for absolutely nothing to do with propulsion. So,
right.
Yeah, been around for a long time.
Yeah. Right, next one. In the race for driverless cars, Mercedes-Benz gives up.
Oh, yes.
A spokesman from the company said, "The conversion to a mobility provider is a thing of the past. We will move away from it again. You can't make money with offers like car sharing. Our investors not only expect sales, but also, above all, profit."
Yeah.
How will they achieve this profit goal? Reportedly, by cutting investments in R&D and focusing on building their brand and pushing the luxurious aspects of their cars. Mercedes, what do you think happens when the cars are driving themselves? A Ford Transit with a DFS sofa in the back is going to be more luxurious than your car because you have to drive your cars and they don't have to. Morons. So yeah, and the other thing is that doesn't get me about Mercedes in this new direction of being complete twazzocks and focusing on profit is I don't know if you know your Formula One, but they have dominated Formula One for the past 7 years. They didn't do that by not innovating, did they? Lewis Hamilton doesn't constantly talk about how we haven't had to do anything for the last 7 years. He's constantly talking about how they have to always working at the factory to bring new updates to make it better, to keep on top of the game, blah, 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 blah. Why on earth they think that giving up and just going, sod it, we got luxurious cars and that'll be fine, is going to work?
Are they doing some sort of deal with like Tesla? They're basically saying, well, we can use your skateboard, please, and then we'll stack our luxurious chassis on top of that.
No, that's not going to work. They did have a relationship with BMW, but that's now fallen apart because they've sort of said, we can't do this. I mean, people were questioning the deal in the first place because basically they were trying to work together on AI software. Two companies that don't do software joining together to do software doesn't really make any sense. And then the reason they can't go to Tesla and say, can we use your skateboard? Because as of battery day, Tesla are no longer working towards any sort of skateboard. There is no such thing as a skateboard now because they've now worked out that it's more efficient and for the battery to have the battery as part of the structure. So there is nothing that you can just put on top of. So we're embedded in now.
Chassis-wise, though.
Embedded into the chassis of the car. What, sorry?
Chassis-wise, though, is that still not customizable? Could you put like an Aston Martin or a whatever car on top of a Tesla base?
No, because there is no base. There's the battery model is all built into the stamping that makes up the whole chassis of the car.
Oh, the entire. Oh, right. Okay, I didn't realize that.
They can't do that.
So you're talking about anything that would pass like a crash test is now reinforced by a battery.
Yeah.
All the arms and everything.
Yeah.
So BMW can't say, oh, I mean, if the arms were like this width, that'd be really cool. I would meet our design because they say, no, our battery's this width. This is what we've got.
Yeah, no. It's all part of the design now. I mean, that has a potential problem in itself. People are worried about like the ability for anyone else to fix Tesla cars. Because if it's that embedded, then how do you take things off, put things on, whatever, mess about with it. Means that Tesla will probably be the only ones that can fix their own cars, unless anyone's willing to actually learn it. So that's one criticism of this new approach. But yeah, in terms of Mercedes-Benz, no, they can't go there. I mean, someone like GM will probably do that. Anyone else might do that because of the fact that they can realize that all the other car manufacturers might do that, but then they're always going to have, because they have a skateboard and the building on top of it, they're all going to have a disadvantage over Tesla unless they can come up with some other way of making theirs as efficient or at least cheaper somehow. So yeah.
So in the same vein of argument, I did see calls for Tesla to sell or license their self-driving technology. Do you think that's something they would do in the future? I mean, once they have an obvious lead.
I think so. I mean, I think I would if I was Elon, because their mission is to move towards sustainable energy. So I think they would, as long as it was for an electric car. I don't think he wouldn't want to help petrol and diesel cars have it.
No.
Because that would go against his mission. But if it was an electric car, then I don't see why they wouldn't, because from their perspective, it's software. Obviously, the cameras are kind of important, and they're probably rather configured to the cameras, so that the positioning of the cameras might mean that the chassis might need to have some restrictions on it. But I don't. But it also might not. It might be a bit more adaptable than that, because presumably they need to work on the S and the X and the Y and the Cybertruck. So they will have to have dealt with that different form factor issue themselves anyway. Presumably they will have different software for each one. They'll figure out a way of making it so that it works for all of them. Yeah,
no, that kind of makes sense too. I can imagine them being the windows of self-driving. They'd have a closed ecosystem to a set spec that, the other car manufacturers would have to adopt. Otherwise, I mean, what's Mercedes otherwise saying? We're going to continue to make cars until 2030, then call it a day?
Well, so we also reported on Mercedes a few weeks back, which was a similar thing, that they're focusing on profit, but they're doubling down on that to the point where they're even dropping their AI stuff. I literally don't understand what they're doing. They have lost the plot, as far as I can tell.
They obviously haven't done much. Because they're not trying to flog off what they've done. It's oh yeah, we're going to stop doing this. Going to buy this, guys. We got fairly far. It's kind of yeah, we've just absolutely failed this. It's a lot harder than we thought.
But to come out and say we're going to cut R&D, I mean, have you ever known a company? Have you ever known a company to have more success by having less R&D? No.
I mean, it's a bold choice.
If you don't innovate, you die. So, thank you, Mercedes-Benz, for everything you've done. It's been a pleasure knowing you. Bye. I don't know. They've got a few years to change their mind, hopefully. But yes. So, next up, it's an interesting one. It's all slightly speculative, conjecture. Is that the right word? But it's interesting. So, we're going for endless renewable energy, a bit like your nuclear fusion that reported, whenever it was you reported. So supposedly, according to a Canadian startup, and it's a startup, so pinch of salt, we can achieve the same endless renewable energy source from the Earth's 6,000 degree molten core from anywhere in the world and get the price down to less than $50 per megawatt hour by the end of the year.
How did they propose that?
Basically, it's a ground source heat pump or a massive underground radiator. It uses thermosiphon, so no pump is needed. You just let the heat rise like it does anyway, extract the steam from the top to run a turbine and repeat it. So this breakthrough comes in part due to our improved ability to drill sideways, which is at least one good innovation that's come out of the oil and gas industry. So it's not fully proven, but this geothermal fracking love child might actually be a savior to the oil and gas industry, provide zero emission green energy, and have the physical land footprint of a shed in the woods.
Right.
Are you following what I'm saying? It's
I am, yeah.
You've got a loop of pipe basically that's underground. Earth heats up the bottom of the pipe, uses the thermosiphon thingy to send the water to the top. This then basically turns to steam. They use the steam to run the turbine, and then as the water cools, it goes back down and gets heated up and goes round and round. And it's a closed system; it just goes round and round and round forever. They can also add pressure to the system to speed up a little bit if they want to. So it's basically used for, if you've got like wind and solar and all the other things where they have sort of ebb and flow, it's one of those backup things where you can, if you need energy quickly, you can just increase the pressure on the thingy and then it'll run it a bit quicker. And then you can sort of, balance it out that way.
Okay, yeah. So I don't feel that they've invented this or any sort of innovation by themselves.
No,
I feel like this is what we discussed that the UK is doing with abandoned mines a few weeks back, where it's going to fill them full of water and do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
However, less efficient, I assume, because it's not so radiator-like.
I can't remember what the mine did, but it's because it's closed. It is a more efficient system. They're going to be starting off with existing geothermal sites because I think sometimes they don't work out. Like they think they've got a place that they can drill, and then it turns out there's no water there, or it's dry, and they're like, damn it, that didn't work.
Got it.
And they spent millions doing it, so they're going to take those places, and then if it's a closed system, they can just fill it up themselves. But yeah, apparently, so there's nothing new, if you like. It's a ground source heat pump, really, but with water in it. The only difference is it's much bigger. It goes much deeper, and yeah, this only come about really because of the ability to drill sideways.
Right. Cool.
We really do before. but we've done it because of oil and gas, because of fracking, because of those sort of industries. We have improved on that capability. So now we can put some good use. So I don't know. It's one of those things. It sounds like it could be amazing.
I mean, it sounds essential, to be honest. It does sound like an Earthshot type of thing that actually kind of makes obvious sense. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah. So we're just we're using the Earth's core to heat up stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I mean, geothermal works out pretty well for Iceland, but obviously they have volcanoes, so it's easier to obtain.
Yes.
But geothermal hypothetically works anywhere. Anywhere you can dig a deep enough hole.
Yes. So we just by improving our ability to drill holes. Apparently it doesn't. So the concern with fracking is earthquakes. Supposedly less of an issue with this because unlike with fracking, you're pumping water down a hole at such high pressure that it breaks the rocks further down. So that's it's what it's trying to do. Whereas this is it's a closed drilling system. It's you're drilling a hole and then encasing it as you go down. So it's not firing pressure. It's drilling an actual hole. I mean, you're drilling a hole, potentially, therefore, still got some sort of risk of earthquakes, but I just don't. I don't think it's as aggressive.
Cool.
So that could be pretty cool, and I like the fact that on the ground, unlike the wind turbine issue, where it's this thing that uses that's all lovely free energy, but it's an eyesore and no one likes the look of it, and a solar panel which takes up a whole field. This one is one where when you don't have that sort of available land footprint that you can use, this one, as I said, is it's a shed in the woods. It's the underneath massive, but on top it's just the bit that's got this turbine in it running, and the pressure valve. And other than that, you wouldn't know it was there, really.
Nice.
So we should have them, and then we should grow trees around the shed in the woods. Well, it's woods, so obviously it's got trees on. There you go. You want more energy? Great. That field over there, I'll have it. I'll grow trees on it. I'll put a shed in the middle, and I'll dig myself a radiator.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I'm also wondering whether the boring company is going to help with this as well at some point. Because
I was thinking to them that they could drill sideways pretty well.
They can, yeah. I think they build wider tunnels than we would perhaps need for running water, but and also there are some other designs which don't seem to need it to go back to where it came from. It's almost like a fork system, so it goes down and then forks out. Didn't fully understand that bit, so I didn't explain that bit, but I think that's a future development that they're planning on doing, because obviously they're looking for ways of drilling which they can do blind, basically, because obviously I don't think they want these things big enough for people to go down them. They want them to just go down and then drill and figure it out on their own type thing. But if the deeper they can go, basically, as long as the pipe and the thing drilling can cope with the heat, the deeper they go, the more effective the system is.
Yeah.
And that is my news for the day.
Oh, fantastic. I like that. Did you say what the startup name was?
The startup name? I did not. Because I didn't write it down. Oh, wait a second. It was, no, I remember it. It was, it's not pronounced this way, but I think it's called Ever.
Ever,
yeah. But yeah, the spelling's odd. It doesn't look like it, but it isn't.
I was hoping for a pun, like the Boring Company.
No. No.
I don't know. The Underground Radiator Company or something. I don't know. Some pun. Type pun.
No, afraid not.
Anyway, today's topic. So, not going to be a long one because try and keep this nice, short and sweet. Kind of what this topic's all about is intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting. Okay, yeah.
Intermittent fasting. So, you and I have experimented with this in the past, and we sort of do it.
We'll do it. I did it today.
Yeah, same. So this is something that we both understand the benefits of. So it should be quite a quick one for ourselves, but for everyone else, this is kind of a summarization, hopefully. So for me, I'm all about just reducing consumption, really. More for the environment, sustainability, but also for the fact that I'm quite lazy, to be honest. And the less stimulus I can take in, the better. I prefer to automate things and have as limited inputs and outputs as possible. Mm-hmm. So for me, intermittent fasting is a really easy way to solve the food problem of the fact that we have to eat X every now and then.
Yeah.
So the ideas we had before of indoor farming, hydroponics, that type of stuff doesn't produce mass varieties and mass quantities of food. Yeah. So those type of future worlds really work well with this too, which is good. But just to summarize, first of all, the idea of intermittent fasting is, I suppose summarizing, just eat once a day. Have one nice big dinner. Try and get in roughly your daily calories, but don't worry about it too much. And the idea is that as long as you're over 18, kids shouldn't do this. You can have yourself a decent meal once a day, maybe even once every other day, depending on what system works for you, and you'll be perfectly fine. Like, we've all been conditioned to eat a lot more than we need and a lot more often than we need. This whole 3 times a day, or you must eat your breakfast, the important meal of the day, is all bollocks, basically. None of it really matters.
Yeah. So, did you like your history? Have you looked at, or do you remember what the history is behind the 3 meals a day thing? Where that came from?
I've heard certain conspiracies. Like,
I don't have the information in my head, so I'm just wondering. But
right, well, apparently it was all introduced by the breakfast companies like Kellogg's,
really?
in the 1920s, 1930s, about why these things are important, and kind of hits you in the face twice as hard knowing that most cereals like Kellogg's they're just useless. You get more nutrients eating the carbo they come in than the actual flakes themselves. Right. A lot of these things are quite nutritionally deficient. So empty calories. But it also makes cornflakes one of the highest profit margin products ever invented. Actually making the flakes is tiny cost, and the upscale is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, marketing. That's basically all the 3 meals a day thing is.
Yeah. And also the insulin spike thing.
Yeah, so discuss insulin a little bit later with different ideas there. But yeah, insulin spike is effectively your body dealing with either a reduction of sugar or an increase of sugar, whichever one, depending on how it works. But yeah, your body is used to being a gatherer, a scavenger, effectively. We are used to eating maybe a handful of berries today, maybe a wild buffalo tomorrow, maybe nothing for Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then maybe on Saturday, we find a banana. And that's kind of what our body is used to doing and has been used to that for thousands and thousands of years. And
Kellogg's came along and messed up.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's other people to blame. I'm not sure if Kellogg's is entirely to blame, but I know they're part of it. But yeah, intermittent fasting, it's not a new idea. This isn't something that's a modern day thing. This has been practiced for thousands of years by ancient Stoics and other ancient warrior types. Spartans are also quite known for their fasting. The idea of not eating for 30 days, 30 nights, that type of thing. And the idea is that you would fast, then feast. And that's the basis of, I think, all religions too. They all have a festival of fasting and a festival of feasting. Like Christians, Christmas is a feast.
Yeah.
Before that, you're not meant to eat over Lent, for example.
Yeah.
All those type of things. And obviously we know Ramadan, the Muslim faith, they have the same ideas. Theirs is probably a bit more strict because they can't drink or eat during sunlight hours. And the idea of intermittent fasting is you should never reduce your water intake. If anything, you should drink more water.
Yeah, I'm bad at that.
Yeah, I mean, it helps your body get rid of all the crap, I suppose. But yeah, it's an ancient diet, effectively, that's been handed down for thousands of years. And it's been not rediscovered, but sort of like readapted in the modern day world. People are now starting to realize that the whole 3 meal a day thing is a myth. Your food quantities is a myth. You don't have to have 30% carbs, 30% protein, 20% fat, all that type of stuff. You don't really need those balanced nutritional meals. You can pretty much eat what you want, as little or as often as you want. But the idea is that you should eat the bare minimum, which I think we've practiced in good success.
If you're asking, I can tell you my reaction to it. Are you asking?
Yes. Let's have Ross around the campfire time.
Okay. Right. So I did it for weight loss as one, just the reduction of calories. 2, because I just found it like I would accidentally skip meals anyway, like unintentionally, because I was just distracted doing something else, whatever. And it was just I just found it annoying having to make time for breakfast, make time for lunch. So when I sort of came across intermittent fasting, and it might actually be better for me to only eat once a day, I thought, well, actually that's kind of convenient. I kind of like that. I liked the cost part of it, because obviously you spend money on having breakfast and lunch, and you spend time making sure that you've got those meals in your house ready to go. Whereas, as I've probably mentioned a few times, here we sort of, because I live with other members of the family, we eat together. So having that one meal a day means that it's the most efficient that it could be, because we're cooking for everyone's having the same meal, which means I only have to buy one meal. And because there's me and other adults, then that cost is shared out. But also I read about autophagy, which is the process of living longer. I don't know, am I stepping on your toes there a little bit or not?
Come on, that a bit later.
All right.
Autophagy.
Yeah, difficult one.
Yeah.
I pronounce it autophagy. I don't know if that's right.
Autophagy. Yeah.
I don't know. Which I think is self-eating or something. I suppose it makes you live longer. I'll let you go into more of that information yourself. But mostly when I talk to other people about it, they say, so I'll give you some of the benefits that I found, but people go, I couldn't possibly do it. If I don't eat for like a few hours, I get really like, can't do it. It's true. For the first few days, it is actually really, really hard, because every time if you smell food, if you're around other people eating food, as soon as you do, your stomach starts to rumble, which is what it's supposed to do. It's preparing itself. And it's very difficult, and you feel like you're not getting what you need. But there's also that insulin thing, which you also going to get to, which is part of the reason why you get that feeling that you need to eat the food, and it's not true. But you'll find after a few days that just completely goes away, and it's really not a problem for you to not eat. I don't notice, in the same way that I used to notice half an hour before lunch and breakfast and dinner, that I needed, I did the wrong order, but that I needed food. Now I get nothing else all day, but and that hour before dinner, my body starts going, dinner time. So exactly the same thing happens, but without the other two. And that's my experience. So I've had No issues with it whatsoever. It's absolutely, like I said, the first few days is hard. After that, really easy, and all the benefits. And I don't think there's any of the negatives. None of them. It's supposed to give you mental clarity as well. I mean, there's literally, I haven't found any negatives to it whatsoever. I love it.
I'm gonna come to the mental clarity part as well. But
shut up, I'll let you teach people.
but yeah, I mean, for me, it's super easy to follow. I mean, it's very hard to get wrong. Just eat once a day, nothing else. Have water, black tea, black coffee is the ideal sort of things in between there. Green tea if you prefer. But yeah, just eat once a day. That's the model we follow. We follow what's called OMAD, which is called 1 meal a day.
Right.
There are different types of fasting. There's intermittent, which we do. There's alternative day, which means you can have maybe lunch, dinner today, maybe dinner tomorrow, and maybe nothing on the third day. To me, more complicated. Prefer not. You also have extended fasts where you just don't eat for 3 to 5 days. And then maybe on Saturday, you go all out, have a proper feast. People have also had quite good results in those, and I've done a few of those as well. So I'll come on to them in a bit later. But ideally, the simplest way is often the best, I think. The idea of Occam's razor, just stick with the simple, eating once a day, and that's it. Kind of makes you think about what you're eating, because that's the only meal you're having today. So you really do increase the quality.
It's a lot easier to go to focus on being healthy for one meal than it is to try and do it 3 times.
So much easier. No snacks. So that's, all that is saving the cost. And just the fact that, like, for example, I'm a meat eater, you're not a meat eater, but for me, I would look forward to the highest quality meat I could get, knowing I'll have that today. Mm-hmm. Like, not buying the off the shelf £2 mince, maybe go for the £5 mince, because I know that today that's my one meal. Yeah. So when I make a chili con carne or a spaghetti bolognese, it's going to be a great meal.
Yeah. To clarify, I do eat meat sometimes. I'm a plant first, but I do eat meat sometimes. I had steak for the first time in ages early this week. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was lovely. But I was allowed to do that. I felt good about it because of the fact that I know I hadn't had it for so long.
Yeah. I mean, we've discussed the benefits of, like, for example, being vegan, being plant first, all that type of stuff. For me, those are trumped by the idea of intermittent fasting, because it's more irrelevant what you eat when you only eat once a day, because the quantity of things is so significantly less. I mean, hypothetically, your damage is less too. So if you wanted to eat nothing but an entire plate of meat at one meal, so be it. That's still going to be less of a damage than if you've done that 3, 4, 5 times a day.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So for consumption basis,
I don't know who I can't eat for breakfast, but I suppose English tradition for breakfast.
Yeah. Bacon wrapped sausages.
Bacon sausages for breakfast. Chicken sandwich for lunch. Yeah, minced meat for dinner. Yeah.
I mean, I've ever seen those chicken burgers, which is just a burger inside 2 pieces of chicken. There's no bread.
No, I haven't. Sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I'm sure once it'll be all right. So before I go into all the benefits of intermittent fasting, I'll just cover the caveats. Do not do intermittent fasting if you're under 18. Do not do it if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. There can be negative side effects on a health basis. Obviously, we are not health professionals. Don't do anything drastic like this. Speak to your GP or whatever prior to changing anything drastically. Don't just stop eating and then blame us if it all goes tits up. The idea of intermittent fasting itself, so we're going to the benefits now, are very simple.
The lawyer part of you.
Yeah.
There's a disclaimer. Do not follow our advice, okay? However, we'll now tell you all the reasons why you should.
If you don't fall into the category of people who are high risk in this, the benefits, as Ross has already mentioned, are pretty astounding personally. So like Ross, I've been doing this for the best part of a year, maybe even 2 years now. It kind of becomes very much natural after a while. And the first few days, the first week, maybe 2 weeks is difficult. Mostly because it's habitual. It's just a habit for you to eat 3 times a day. And in the morning, you get hungry because, I normally have breakfast around this time. After a couple of days, a week, you sort of forget that you've never really done that and you don't feel hungry anymore. And it starts getting a lot easier. But the other thing as well is that because your body isn't getting the quantity of things like sugars, other types of artificial things that perhaps you may have been consuming, those type of things will reduce. So your body does fight against those, as with pretty much any dietary change. There are the first initial hard parts where your body adjusts. But should you push through those, you start getting to the significant benefits. So you touched on autophagy.
I think so, yeah.
I still hate that word.
Autophagy, but that doesn't sound quite right, does it? So
I mean, that's kind of how it's spelled, autophagy.
Yeah, but I think it's autophagy.
Yeah, autophagy, self-eating. Benefits of this process is basically when the body starts consuming your body fat in order to use it to fuel your body. A lot of people get concerned by this, that they're going to start losing muscle mass. And you'll only ever lose muscle mass once you've used up all your fat. Your body is smart enough to know that it's easier to consume that fat, which is the entire reason why it's there, versus using your muscle. And you'll only start eating your muscle once all your fat is gone. And I'm pretty sure you'd be fully aware once that happens, because you would probably not be able to move. Other than that, fat usage, and again, that's where the body consumes and stores that fat, is for stuff like this. You aren't meant to eat as much as we do. You are meant to burn your fat. So the body stores it very efficiently in order to be used. So once you get into autophagy, your body starts burning the fat cells and produces various chemicals which are just generally good for cell quality, kills certain types of cancers. There's lots of evidence to say it also makes you live longer, which is good. Helps get rid of things like indicators which could predominantly push on to Parkinson's, or any other sort of negative conditions to do with, ideally, just increased quantities of crap in your system. It's a good flush out.
Yeah, from me, from what I read, the way I look at it is, because we are so used to, in our modern days as well, so being able to have whatever we want, our bodies are in a constant state of happy times. So it takes all the extra fat, stores it. Thanks very much. We'll keep that for another day. Thank you. And it doesn't. It's expecting for you to get to a point where you then don't have any food. Yeah. Like that's why it's done it, because it assumed that this summer or whatever was going to end and that winter was going to come and life was about to get difficult. And so the same chemicals which it produces when you start burning through your normal fat, your stored fat, also help to clean out your system, so that you can stop being a gluttonous fat person to being a lean, mentally aware person that can go hunting and fight for their life, because that's what you're going to need. But we never get to that point, so it never bothers to replenish the cells. So we just collect all this crap, and we don't clean it out. So it's like it's the spring clean that never happens if you don't do it. If you don't eat your body stored fat, it's like it'll start off by using what's in your stomach, and that's your insulin cycle. And then when it runs out of that, the next thing it wants is to do your stored fat, but it can't do both at the same time. It can only do stomach or stored fat. So you have to tell it, we're not doing stomach anymore, we're doing stored fat, and the only way you can tell it to do stored fat is to not eat.
Exactly. And yeah, it's not even a choice by the body. The stomach food goes first because it's the easiest. The body is a lazy machine which will use the least path to resistance, which if there's food in your stomach,
it's efficient.
It's efficient. If there's food in your stomach, it's easy calories. If there's no food in your stomach, it will start using its vast storages. And most people, even if you're an athlete, have 15 to 20% of body fat on them at all times. Women have more. And the idea is that you are not going to get to zero. There's no worry of that effectively, unless you have maybe medical conditions that has nothing to do with that, but you'll be fully aware of that. Speak to GP. Other stuff too. So the mental clarity. So we did touch on this. Once you start burning up the fat inside, you start producing different fuel called ketones. So your brain uses those differently to sugars and other stuff, and it actually makes the brain more efficient. So the idea here is that you're in the middle of the savannah, you haven't eaten in maybe a day or two, your body starts producing ketones for you to find food. So your mind is now maybe firing at 115, 120%, because we need to find food soon because we haven't eaten in a day or two, maybe 3 days. I think 3 days is the ketone peak where you start getting the benefits, the majority of these from. So now your mind is telling you, yeah, we need to start finding food now. So let's just be a bit more efficient, a bit more top heavy, and let's go find something. Let's solve that problem. For some reason, we're not eating. So you start getting mental clarity. You say you haven't experienced this.
I don't think I would say I've observed anything. I mean, I've only been doing the once a day. I've never gone beyond that. I can't say that. I never feel particularly foggy mentally anyway. But I wouldn't know. So I haven't, kind of, wow, I feel like I know everything today. That hasn't happened. So sadly.
You don't feel like Bradley Cooper in what's it called, Limitless?
Not yet. No. Maybe I'll fast for 2 days and see what happens.
Well, third day. But yeah, I'm the same basically. I don't get that fog. Well, a lot of people will talk about how the mental fog clears up. I don't really seem to have that, or I don't think I've ever had that. So I don't understand that perhaps. So I'm not really on board with that. But I've done plenty of experiments where I haven't eaten for 3 days. And one of those was over a chess tournament, because I was trying to determine I didn't eat for 24 hours prior, and then I didn't eat for the entire 3 days of the chess tournament. So it's about 4 days of not eating a single thing, only consuming water and black tea. And my test was, am I going to perform better this chess tournament than I did the previous year? And drum roll, I did not.
You actually
I performed worse. Yeah.
Although in fairness, there was other factors involved. I'm not sure there's the best of tests you've ever done.
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's other factors involved. I didn't play the same people, different environments, etc., etc. I could have performed worse anyway, but I was trying to see mentally, did I feel better at the chessboard, trying to solve these problems in the time that I had. It was classical chess, so I had a good hour and a half per game, so plenty of time. The benefits I did notice were, especially on the second day, I was able to see the moves, which I eventually did play, significantly faster than I did prior.
All right.
So that's the benefits I did see. So I still didn't win those games, but the moves I eventually did play, maybe after 10 minutes of check-in, I saw those immediately. And should I have been playing something like blitz chess, where the games were like 10 minutes, I think I would have had the edge.
Okay.
I think I would have done a lot better. I think maybe over a classical game, I mean, my speed to see the move didn't really matter too much.
The advantage was not there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't become better at problem solving. I didn't become more intelligent or anything like that. Nothing mad. I think all I done was what I knew. I was able to process and problem solve with what I knew quicker than perhaps before, and reach the same conclusion I would have done earlier.
Yeah.
So in my context, not really required, but in different contexts, I can see that being very useful. So
crystal made.
Yes, definitely. Any sort of game show at all where you have 30 seconds to perform, you don't need 3 days before that. You'll probably do a lot better.
I'll probably end up eating crystals. I would be so hungry. Wouldn't work out.
The danger of fasting for 3 days too is that it gets scarily easier. The second day is the hardest. Third day is the easiest.
Right. Well, same as, I guess, when you do stop from normal eating to intermittent fasting. Start with, so it's all right. Middle, second day, third day, starts to get a bit of a problem. But by the end of the week, you're fine.
There's various research to say what's the maximum you should fast. Obviously, there's like Buddhist monks who fast for months. But the idea is you shouldn't really go past 3 days. 3 days seems to be the limit of what we know is sort of a safety threshold. Different people, different things. You might start causing damage to their kidneys and livers and stuff. That's,
I've never pushed it. I don't even do it particularly strictly. Like I don't record what time I started eating, what time I finished eating. This is not on the list of recommended drinks to have.
Was that like a G&T or something?
No, definitely not G&T. It's black. It's got Coke in it. So I've never taken it to any sort of level of extreme at all. I literally just do one meal a day and a drink. But so you don't have to be super strict about it, but you still get some of the benefits. Certainly the cost element. Certainly the time element that you get back. I don't know whether I get as much of the autophagy as if I did it properly, but
probably do. Autophagy kicks in at 18 hours ish. So if you haven't eaten for 18 hours, it'll start kicking in. But then if you do eat, but the idea of OMAD is that you should have at least 23 hours of fasting, giving you about 5 hours of autophagy every single day. And
I mean, at the moment, I've probably if this is not, that's clearly not fasting right now. I'm coming close to about 4 hours of not fasting. So I would typically do 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of not.
Yeah. So that would make you a 24 sort of fasting schedule. 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating ish.
Which and the weight loss, like I was going through a period there where I was like, I was never fat, but I was clearly putting on some weight. Whereas if I do this, I don't even have to particularly focus on doing regular exercise in order to not get fat. It's just naturally just doesn't happen. Which is a difficult balance because at the same time, I think that's probably not a good thing because it means I don't have to worry about making sure I do lots of exercise, and actually that's probably not helpful because I probably should do the exercise anyway. But
yeah, I mean you should if you want to get lean.
If you have a busy lifestyle and you don't have time to go to the gym, this one does make it much easier to stay of a sensible weight without having to worry about it.
Yeah. And it also works well with the gym lifestyle. Don't feel like you have to eat before or after a gym session. That doesn't seem to really affect the performance. So weight-wise, I do a weight regime every morning with kettlebells, which we discussed previously. I've recently done my 10,000th one, which is pretty good. And I still only eat once a day and have done for almost 18 months now.
Is that intense workout though? You're more, or is it relatively?
It's intense enough, yeah. As in, my heart rate is up to roughly 160-ish.
Because I have found on days where I've done lots of labor type work as an outdoor work, I have found on those days that I struggle after doing the exercise to not want to eat because I almost feel a bit dizzy or whatever. So on those, when I have had that, I've just gone, well, let's not. It's never worth feeling horrific for the sake of this fasting thing. And I also think that I don't know whether doing it every day is even as we said, there's supposed to be, well, as I said, not you, I may have made this up, but there's supposed to be like this summer idea and this winter idea. There's supposed to be good times and there's supposed to be bad times. So in
fasting feast,
doing the intermittent thing all the time, even though I am still feasting for 4 hours a day, I still think it's probably good for me to sometimes not do that and sometimes just eat whenever I want to. So anytime I feel like I'm weakened or in something because I haven't eaten, then I will eat.
Yeah.
And break the fast until the next day.
Yeah, I mean, this is all to do with experimentation. I think you are probably more in a position where you're looking to maintain your body weight and your body level. I'm still in a situation trying to lose weight. So I'm still being very strict on what I do consume. Over the last year, I have lost just over 50 pounds and I'm down to my last 8 pounds of my ideal weight. And that last 8 is ridiculous, hard to get rid of. Even though I only eat in once a day, I do half an hour of kettlebells and a 2-hour ruck every day. I'm still not getting there quickly.
Yeah,
I'm still losing maybe half a pound a week. So it's hard, but that's
you've probably lost the majority of. Well, as I said, you've lost 95% of weight. It's probably if you just did, even if you didn't do the rucking, even if you didn't do the kettlebells, you probably wouldn't necessarily gain at this point. You would just stay as you are. I probably have perhaps some to lose as well. I just haven't bothered.
Yeah, I mean, I could go more strict. I could stop doing the exercise. Maybe do a 3-day fast every week, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, talking of extended fast as well. I have me and Jem, my wife. We have started doing extended fasts. So we have a Sunday dinner on Sunday, and then we don't eat until Tuesday evening, and that's become a very normal thing we've been doing pretty much since lockdown, because we then promise ourselves a takeaway Tuesday and normally have an Indian. And we don't eat all of Monday, all of Tuesday until 8 o'clock. And that's our reward.
Yeah.
It works.
And I've even before fasting, having not eating anything all day and then having a curry. I don't know about you, but it tastes better than me. It tastes better when you do that. So I like your bill. I like your little Tuesday night thing. It's great.
It is amazing because it's about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock on Tuesday. You start thinking, I'm looking forward to that. I'm hungry now. Let's get the kids to bed now.
Is it the same curry every week? Do you have the same one?
Not always the same, but I've got favorites. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, we've got to a point where we discovered we like this specific one, and it's like a buy one get one free on the curries. So it's a win-win. But we get a lot of stuff. We probably consume 2,000 calories maybe, but it's great. So it's a good time.
I can't remember the last time I saw you smile so much. Just thinking about the curry. So there you go. It sounds like there's a reason to do intermittent fasting just for that alone.
It is. I mean, that's an amazing benefit. My other benefit, which is probably less PC, is that I only shampoo once a week. Which happens to be every Wednesday.
For that one. No, let's not go into this topic too long, but I'm much more regular than that.
I'm but I just wanted to state that I see it as a benefit personally, that my body is getting rid of less crap from my system, literally, because it has less to get rid of. So that's, I think, it's a good thing.
So
literally,
it's almost like it's reusing or recycling or something better. It's putting waste to energy because it's managed to find better ways of recycling what it got.
Yeah.
I mean that's an interesting one because presumably, okay, you are doing more fasting than I am, but I think it's very because I'm not having that experience, so it's very interesting that you are, and what that must mean is what's going on underneath to enable that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm also very high on my water usage, which I know you said you struggle with sometimes. So I'm not sure if that helps too. That I may be flushing more stuff out in, peeing than the other way.
Yeah.
So a lot of my toxins perhaps go up that way and not building up over time.
Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I probably eat a lot more because I'll have snacks after dinner. I probably maybe I eat more of that stuff, which is not healthy stuff. But again, I'm not overly seriously. I just find it it's just a very comfortable and easy method.
Yeah, I think in order for things to be successful, they have become part of your lifestyle, and this has become part of my lifestyle. At first, I was super strict. 5 o'clock on the dot, I started eating. 6 o'clock on the dot, I stopped.
Right.
And I use an app called Zero, which you can find on Android, probably iOS, I have no idea. And the idea there is that it tells you when you can eat and it tells you when you can stop eating. Assuming you want to stick to the same schedule every single day, which I did. I did that for months because I was just forcing myself to stick in that world. And these days, not so strict. Sometimes dinner's a bit late, maybe 5:30, maybe sometimes 6.
Yeah.
And I know I eat roughly an hour. I mean, if I have an hour and 10 minutes here, 45 minutes there, it doesn't make a difference now. It's part of my lifestyle. And I'm literally not hungry in the mornings or lunch. And I'm not really hungry for dinner time sometimes. But I kind of force myself to eat because I should. Because I still want to stick to it once a day.
I'm pretty ravenous by dinner time. I am. I'm known for eating everything that's on my plate. And I hate wastage. So I will generally eat anything that anyone else doesn't eat as well.
Oh, dangerous with a kid around.
And if there's seconds, I will probably have that too. So I don't know. I'm probably in that one meal. I'm probably in danger of eating the same number of calories everyone else eats in 3. But
I mean, if you can eat it all in within an hour, so be it. That was my rule at the beginning, where I wouldn't strictly say what I can and can't eat. I'll eat whatever the hell I want within 1 hour.
Yeah. And
that would be chocolate, stuff, crisps, whatever, and a meal. And I would stuff them in. Yeah, I'd be missing these things. I went through a phase of eating like those caramel wafer things.
Right.
I love them things. And every time I fancied one, which would normally be around midday-ish, I put it to the side. I'll have you a 5. And
I'll have you at 5, son.
Yeah. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 on the side waiting for 5 o'clock.
Right.
It's like, I'll treat myself today. I deserve that. Come 5 o'clock, I start with those 3 as I'm plating up the rest of the food. So that was my treat. And that worked. So I think do it strict at first, but ease off as time goes on once you get out of the habit of wanting to eat 3 times a day. Once you've broken that chain of, I must have breakfast, whatever, I think you'll be okay. And maybe don't go straight into OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. Maybe get rid of breakfast. Start there. Have lunch, have dinner. Maybe get rid of tea as well. Tea and breakfast tend to be the first and the last meals. Get rid of those. Have a nice lunch. Have a nice dinner, and then experiment. Get rid of lunch now and then. I mean, especially if you used to work in an office, then those type of things you'd obviously start saving money on quite easily.
Yeah.
So now lunch in an office costs quite a bit. And then just have dinner when you get home and just experiment. And eventually just have dinner.
My other advice would be to actually do your own research on where the whole 3 meal a day thing comes from, because as you've said, and as I believe, until you've only had 1 meal a day, you just cannot imagine how it could possibly be the case that you could survive without eating 3 meals a day. Every single person I've talked to this about, they always say the same thing. No, I would get really cranky if I didn't eat. If I didn't have breakfast, I lose it type thing. And they say that all the time. So obviously, pick half term or whatever week or your week off holiday or something, maybe do it, but look into it, because it really is not as required. It is completely, probably just as you say, commercial marketing that makes us believe it. And because that insulin spike thing happens, as soon as insulin levels drop, which is your body's way of saying, I'm about to switch from using your stomach fat to using your stored body fat. That's all it's saying. It's just telling you that. But we've taken that to be a signal to say, okay, it's time for me to eat again. And that's wrong. Yeah.
And the more you do this, the less you feel hungry. Hunger is a habit. It's not really a thing that your body does. Most of the time when you feel hungry, you're just thirsty anyway. But yeah, as you say, as soon as your body gets rid of that, the simple calories, simple carbs, whatever you've just eaten, that takes maybe an hour to get rid of, perhaps, since you've eaten. Once that's gone, your body will switch to burning your fat, and that is autophagy. The longer you're in autophagy, the better. Only up to 3 days, say, is currently the limit. But yeah, 3 days of autophagy, you could be burning, because your metabolism is still running. Your metabolism does not slow down. You will be still burning, say, 1,500 calories a day, just keeping your body doing its thing. If you're working out or going for walks, running, whatever, obviously you're adding more. So yeah, you could literally burn a pound of fat every 3 days that you don't eat by putting nothing into your system.
And I think that point you made about the water is a really useful one. I mean, like I said, I'm not very good at remembering to drink water, but it was helpful in the beginning when I was just starting to do it. That your body can, if you drink water when you feel hungry, that is quite often all you actually need to make yourself have the same benefits as if you ate a meal.
Yeah.
We can't tell the difference, supposedly, or at least we get them confused. So on those first few days, have a bottle of water to hand, and then every time you feel hungry, take some water, and that's it. And you'll be all right. You'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, with water as well, the way I like to think about it is, if your body's burning up the fat, imagine fat is like bubble wrap, that you've popped the little bubbles in the bubble wrap. There's your fat cells all gone away. But those little holes are still, there's little crap in there, bits of toxins or whatever, and the water comes along, whoosh, washing them all out, and out it goes in your wee, and kind of cleans out those little fat cells for you, and keeps your body tip-top. Yeah.
How we're able to be so useful and informative every week, Craig.
Well, we've been doing this for a while. We haven't died, have we? So that's a good research project, I think.
Not sure that's a measure of success there, but okay, fine. Yes, we haven't died.
I mean, for example, my wife she did actually worry for me at one point when I first started doing this. What, you're not gonna eat? Maybe you should eat today.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm all right.
Or maybe that was because you were being, particularly ignorant that day.
Maybe I was hungry, as it were.
Yes.
But
no, I mean, it is embedded in us on a deep level to think that we must have 3 meals a day, and if we don't, then we have to make up for that somehow.
I mean, yeah, kids aren't born thinking, I really want breakfast. That's not a thing in kids.
Well, I mean, my son does it unintentionally quite a lot anyway, because, if he's playing, he doesn't notice. And if you don't notice you're hungry, if you can go hours without realizing that you haven't eaten food, when you clearly don't need food, at the point that you need food, guess what? We've evolved a way of telling us that we need food. Your body can feel it, or your stomach rumbles. There are signs to tell you that I really could do with some food right now. So if you definitely don't eat habitually because it's 12 o'clock and it's lunchtime. If you didn't notice, just don't bother.
Yeah, just as a small thing as well, because we keep having to go at breakfasts. The idea of 1 meal a day, it doesn't have to be a dinner. It could be breakfast if you want. You could eat every single day at breakfast and then nothing else. Yeah. Perfectly fine as well. Just pick 1 hour in your day to say, that's my eating window. Or, as I said, start with 4 hours, 4 hours. Maybe 8 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is, whatever's comfortable. Pick that as your eating window. Stick to that. And I think you'd have pretty good results.
And that's still a trial I'm wanting to do, to actually flip it so that breakfast is the only meal I have in a day and not have dinner. But so my current social circumstances are such it doesn't make sense to do that. But but I'm curious because I think particularly because I'm trying to be more of an early bird than I am.
So I would like to switch that. I think one way to do that would be to, because that way I'm
because I'm hungry. That's that hunger that I get at 5 o'clock saying, hey, it's nearly dinner time. If I got that at 6 o'clock in the morning, then it might encourage me to get up earlier. So that's what I'd like to try, but I haven't done so yet.
Yeah, that'd be a good experiment. The reason I chose dinner, for me, it's just the easiest. And especially at the beginning, you spend half the time you're fasting sleeping anyway. So don't really worry about that too much. And I think for me, you feel hungry in the mornings, there's something to look forward to. And eventually that hunger subsides. But yeah, I think if you move to breakfasts, I'd find that difficult. Not on the fasting, but on the ideas, what to have for breakfast. That's kind of my weakest meal preparation area.
But when you think about it, breakfast is quite varied. As in, if you think about, you've got your cooked breakfast and your continental breakfast. It's actually quite a lot of different types of foods that you can eat at breakfast. Possibly the worst one, or the one that I struggle to imagine, is vegetables. Really, fruit makes sense, carbohydrate makes sense, even protein makes sense in the mornings. But there isn't an awful lot of standard vegetables, certainly not root vegetables. People don't eat that in the morning.
Sort of do. It's creative uses. You could have an omelette. You could have potato shavings in your omelette. You could have avocado in your omelette, carrot. But yeah, it's just difficult. But even a full English, you could have chips. I mean, get some potato in there.
I mean, obviously within the full English and the continental, all of those bits are covered, and the fruit salad and all that sort of stuff. The things that you have in a hotel, the full spread, you can imagine all of that. That's all the things that are option on for breakfast, and that's all great. And there's obviously got more opportunity for cereals and fibers and nuts and things. All those things work quite nice, probably even better than they do at dinner time. But yeah, like I said, it's just the root vegetables which are perhaps not as obvious.
Yeah, maybe not cereals. There's a good book called Grain Brain.
Green beans. I've never seen anyone green beans for breakfast, but maybe.
Yeah. Different place in the world. Some places have curry for breakfast.
Well, okay, fair enough.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that personally.
I'd love it. I mean, I have had curry for breakfast before. Usually the morning after they've had it for the night for a takeaway. But curry on toast, bellissimo. Probably the wrong language to use there. Italians probably don't do that, but
Yeah. But yes, that's it. That's intermittent fasting. We've both had a good level of success. It's something I'll probably continue to do forever. I don't see any reason to ever stop doing that. I'm not so strict as I used to be. I do have days off sometimes. Like, for example, I'll let go on a weekend sometimes. Currently, I've got a week off work and I'm not being so strict. So I'm okay with that. Like, I might put on a pound this week and then it might take me another 2 months to get rid of it. Whatever. I'm very close to my weight limits, etc. I've done the hard work as far as I'm concerned. And I think once you start this, get that first few weeks out, you will start getting the benefits and you can start doing the same. But that's all I have.
Cool. Okay. Well, then all there is to say is thank you very much for joining us. Remember to think, educate, and act, and we will catch you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.